Hi, my name is Oscar and I'm a scientist. Today we're going to discuss the topic of the Visa Bulletin, specifically for August 2023. As you know, this channel is meant for those who are self-petitioning a green card under employment-based categories such as EB1A or EB2 NIW. We focus on those because you don't need to have a job offer, you don't need a company sponsoring you, and you can do it without a lawyer if you choose to do so. So without further delay, we're going to get into the topic. Spoiler alert, today there's a lot of news. In the recent months, we didn't have a lot of changes, but this month is really full of changes. So let's move into my other screen and start talking about the Visa Bulletin. Okay, so the first thing that you should know is that to get to this official publication that USCIS and the State Department issue every month, you just Google or use your browser of your preference Visa Bulletin. Okay, so you Google that, and usually you will get this link as your first finding in Google. So you click this travel.gov link, and you will see a page like this one. You will always get the current Visa Bulletin. That's the Visa Bulletin for the month you are in. Today we're in July, is July 13th to be more specific. So you get that one, and you get at some point in the middle of the month, you get the next month. So you know how your process will be affected. Will you be able to do, for example, an adjustment of status? Or do you, if you are abroad, can you do a consular processing step at that point? So this is what you get from this Visa Bulletin publication. So what I will do, I will open in different tabs the July 2023 and August 2023 Visa Bulletin, and we're going to go back and forth comparing them together so you understand how things are changing in the upcoming month. All right, so once you are in the Visa Bulletin, what we do is we go down, we pass the family sponsor preference. If you're looking for a family green card update, this is not your channel, so I'll save you some time. You can move on to a different channel. So I'll skip those and I get to employment base. Okay, there's a little explanation on how USCIS issued or allocates the number of green cards each month, and then we move to table A. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to do the same for the Visa Bulletin of August. I'm going to go down to this table. So now we have them almost in the same situation, and we can easily compare. So let's start talking about Table A. Table A is right now the table that is being used for adjustment of status, and that may change from month to month, but this is what is happening right now. So we're going to start with that one, and then we'll move to Table B, which is used for the consular processing step. Okay. So in Table A, what we see is that in July, most of the countries were current. This first employment-based category here, and let me do a little bit of zoom in. So most countries were current. That means that you can submit your I-140 and your adjustment of status at the same time if you choose to do so, or anytime you choose to do that. Okay, so that's the best situation. Having a C means current, so most countries were current for EB1, and that includes EB1A, the green card category I also discussed in this channel. China and India, as usual, were a little bit backlogged with about 1 year and a few months of backlog. So let's move now to August and see how things change. And unfortunately, things change for EB1 in the wrong direction. So you see now that in August, there's no C anywhere. We have a date now for most countries, which is August 1st, 2023. This is not good news. It's not terrible. There is a very slight delay, so you cannot go ahead and file together or concurrently your I-140 and adjustment of status for EB1 like it was possible in the recent years. So now people will need to submit the I-140, and then 1 month later they may be able to submit the adjustment of status if there are enough visa number available, and that we will know in upcoming Visa Bulletins. Okay, so we'll need to wait This is just an indication that things are not moving in the right direction, that the number of EB1 green cards are being used up. So we can only hope that with the beginning of the new fiscal year, which starts in September, we'll get a little bit better situation there. Okay, if we look at China and India, the dates are actually very similar. China stays exactly the same. Yeah, China is the same date. And India now has January and it had February. So that means that it retrogressed 1 month. So they need to, so it's a bad situation for India again. They need to wait a little bit longer. Okay. So that's the situation for EB1. Not great, but not terrible. It's just not current anymore. We'll continue to monitor this in the upcoming Visa Bulletin. So let's move now to EB2. EB2 is one of the ones that get more attention, particularly in this channel, because we talk about EB2 NIW. NIW, National Interest Waiver, is part of the EB2. Okay, so in July, the situation was that there was almost a year and a half of backlog because the priority date was February 2022. Remember that you can only file adjustment of status if your priority date when you file the I-140 is earlier than the date shown in this Visa Bulletin. So that meant that about 1 year and a half of backlog, and if we quickly look into August, what we see is the date has advanced. It has advanced from February to April. So a couple of months advancing is great news because it's been, I think, a little bit over half a year that we had seen either a frozen date or retrogression, which is the worst situation when dates go backwards. And for the first time this year, we see the EB2 date advance for most countries. That is also true for Mexico and Philippines. Let's look or pay attention now to China and India. In China and India, we see only a little bit of change in China. The date in July was June 2019, and now it moves to July 2019. So it advanced 1 month, and that is good news also for the Chinese applicants because at least it's moving in the right direction. However, India, if you pay attention, July was January, and August is still January 2011. There's a lot of backlog for India, particularly, also China, but especially India. And they actually see it frozen again. So that means that there is no progress for the Indian applicants. That's really unfortunate. Okay, so I always say that for Indian and, for Indian and Chinese applicants, the best option here is to, if you are highly qualified and you need to meet a higher standard, look into the EB1 green card category because you have a much better or shorter backlog there. If you're Chinese, if you are Indian born, which is what matters for these processes, look into EB1A. You can also self-sponsor, and you may get, you will get your green card sooner if you can meet the requirements, which again, they are higher requirements, okay? So I usually don't talk about EB3 because it's not a category that is self-sponsored, but I want you to see how dramatic the change has been for EB3. The date was showing February 2022 for EB3 for most countries, and look at August. In August, EB3 retrogressed almost by 2 years. They even created a section at the end of the Visa Bulletin explaining this because it's such a dramatic change that I was kind of shocked to see, okay? Before moving into that final section, let's now look at the tables for dates for filing, table B, which is more relevant to those of you who are applying from abroad, and after the I-140, you will go ahead and continue your process in consulates, okay? So there is very little changes. For EB1, actually, there's absolutely no change in these dates, and now I'm looking at July. If I move to August, you see that there's no changes. Everything is current except India and China that are showing June 2022. So absolutely no change there. Now, when people see this, and remember that table A was showing worse dates for applicants, people ask me, so Oscar, so is it faster to get the green card if you do consular processing based on these dates? And the answer is no. What this table means is that those applicants that are going to continue the process in a consulate or embassy, that means that they can proceed with what is called document qualification, which is submitting certain civil documents. So that date allows them to submit those documents, but they will not be called for interviews to fully complete the process until their date is also current in Table A. So at the end of the day, to complete the full process, everyone will need to look at Table A, okay? This Table B is only talking about the beginning of the consular processing, but not the full consular processing step, okay? So if we look at EB2 for that second table, those of you that are filing national interest waiver from abroad, let's look at the changes in the dates. So we were seeing December 2022 for most of the countries, and we go to August, and it's exactly the same date. So pretty much no changes, except China has advanced. So if we go back to July, we see July 2019 for China, and now we see October 2019. So that is great news for, again, for Chinese applicants. They will have a little bit faster process in the document qualification step of consular processing. All right, so let's now take a look at the bottom of the Visa Bulletin. A lot of times I skip this part, but it's good to know that there are a few notes always at the end. So for example, in this month, August, they talk about how the EB1 final action date is being set for this first employment-based category. And they are talking about the fact that instead of having a C for current for this EB1, now there is an actual date for all the countries, including Mexico and Philippines. And that's because they are holding the number to be within the maximum allowed number of green cards that they can issue in fiscal year 2023. Okay, they are continuing to monitor the situation, and they will make adjustments accordingly. And they also say it is likely that in October the category will return to current. Okay, so this is good. It's saying, okay, August and September, you may see that date over there. There will be one or maybe a couple of months delay of backlog. But then once the fiscal year 2024 starts in October, you will probably see current again. There is also some comments about retrogression in EB1 for India. And that was announced in the previous Visa Bulletin also. They warned us about that, and now they are explaining why it's happening. And again, it goes back to the number of applicants, people doing more adjustment of status, so they need to hold on the green cards they can issue. And remember that this is something that is governed by Congress, not by USCIS or the Department of State. They are just following the rules that Congress enforce. Okay. Then they talk about retrogression in EB3. I told you that this retrogression is kind of crazy, almost a 2-year retrogression, and they explain here that, again, it is because they cannot go over the fiscal year annual limit for green cards. So I want to know from you in the comments below, are you happy about this news? Did you expect it to still be frozen for EB2 NIW particularly? Are you surprised by the advancement finally in the dates? Or are you sad that it's not even better? Let me know your comments also about EB1 or other categories that you want to discuss. And as usual, I want to talk about my websites, eb1greencard.info here on the left side and eb2niw.info. You should go check them out if you are serious about self-sponsoring, self-petitioning your own process without a company, without a lawyer. I have really great resources, including online courses that you can benefit from. You'll have a lot of lectures that are well structured. I'll tell you how to fulfill the requirements, how to craft your own petition so you can save thousands of dollars in lawyers or attorneys, and you can do it by yourself, controlling your process and being the owner of your own immigration future, which at the end of the day is critical for those of you who are in the US already and maybe you are worried always about layoffs and those sorts of things that I talked about in my recent videos, or if you're abroad, you still want to do it by yourself because, again, you probably can do it better and faster than hiring someone to do it for you. So I'll show you how in my courses. Take a look at them and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for your attention. Good luck to all of you in your green card process.